Very nice. Good evening. Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to state that the Planning Commission meetings are open to the public in person and via Microsoft Teams streaming application. All Planning Commission meetings information can be found on the Town of Monument website. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings and to make recommendation to the Town Council regarding land use matters in the Town of Monument. Each commissioner agrees to a non-partial, objective, and fair review, which includes no prejudgment of the projects. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify him or herself for any conflicts of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so now. For those attending tonight who wish to provide comment on agenda items, you may speak to the commission during the public comment section of the agenda. Those who attend in person will be called upon first and asked to come to the podium and sign with your name and address. Those attending via Microsoft Teams will be called upon next and are asked to utilize the raise your hand option and unmute your microphone when called upon. We ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on the same subject. Again, thank you for attending. We will now begin the meeting with roll call. Nope, fully on in green. Doing well, Ray. Yeah.
Chair Trujillo,
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Hours,
Here.
Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Egley,
Here.
Commissioner Green,
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
That ends roll call. Thank you.
All right, and we have no alternates or appointments today, is that correct? All right, but if we could please rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And at this point, Ray, we are going to move to approve minutes.
Collins moves to approve as presented.
Smith second.
Chair Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Good. Perfect. Moving right down the line, we're going to move to number 6 here, public hearing and recommendations. Staff will now present items number 3A and 3D, or correction, yeah, 3A and 3D. 3A, a resolution for final plat known as Willow Springs Ranch, filing number 2, and now present to, or send back to staff.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see that? Oh, sweet. Okay. Tonight, I will present Willow Springs Ranch filing number 2, final plat on behalf of staff. All right. The project is located north of Forest Lakes Drive and west of Willow Springs Ranch, filing 1. The applicant is Drexel Barrel and Company. I believe Tim Connell is with us tonight to answer any questions. The property owner is Willow Springs Ranch LLC. The site acreage is 6.3158 acres. The request is approval of the filing number 2 final plat. Little background, Willow Springs Ranch filing number 2 final plat as a application was approved in 2022, but it was not recorded within the required period. per Monument Development Code, section 18.01.280, which does require the final plat to be recorded within 3 months of approval. So as a result, the applicant was required to start the final plat application process again. So in 2023, the applicant resubmitted the Willow Springs Ranch Filing 2 final plat application. This version of the final plat does contain a few minor changes in wording, but remains in conformance with the Willow Springs Ranch preliminary final PD site plan that was approved in 2020. Right. Okay, here we've got the zoning. The surrounding zoning is primarily PUD, as you can see. The north and south of the property is unincorporated territory, and it's kind of difficult because got this Forest Lakes Drive sort of on the diagonal, but I feel like everybody knows, to the south. It's not in blue, it's not in the town. And then the land use, we've got vacant to the north, and then the Forest Lakes subdivision to the south. I was going to see if I could get a little pointer for you guys. Anyways, that is to the south. Willow Springs Ranch Filing number 1. You can see it has been platted out adjacent to filing number 2. Okay. All right, Willow Springs Ranch Filing number 2 complies with the town comprehensive plan because the new lots are within the area designated as single family detached, which is shown on the land use map right here. The big old arrow. All right. So a little background and existing site. This image was the latest one we could get from Google Earth with the outline of the proposed plat. And as you can see, filing number 1 right next to it, and right across the street, the Lake Forest subdivision. All right. So we've got 4 relevant cases that are connected to this site. Number 1, the Willow Springs Ranch preliminary and final PD site plan, major amendment. We just want to say this amendment isn't really related to the proposed filing number 2 plat. It's a different area. Willow Springs Ranch Filing number 2, as I mentioned before, was approved in 2022, but was not recorded. Willow Springs Ranch Filing number 1 was approved in 2021. And Willow Springs Ranch preliminary final PD site plan, which we'll be referring to quite often, was approved in 2020. All right. So this is the proposed final plat. And as mentioned in the staff report, the plat does contain 27 lots. The proposed site includes access from Forest Lakes Drive, and it does have a trail connection to the regional trail, which is shown on the preliminary/final PD site plan. The plat includes 2 tracks. These would serve public utilities, landscaping, trails, drainage, that sort of thing. The tracks are proposed to be owned and maintained by Willow Springs Ranch Metro District. The Short Prairie Court, as you can see, a little bit of road up top, is prepared to be connected to the adjacent right-of-way if and when the school district comes into that location. Depending on the site plan for the planned school, the proposed access down here to Forest Lakes Drive may require future conversion to a right-in, right-out. Staff has proposed a condition of approval to address that possibility. Okay. This is the approved PD site plan from 2020, and it does show the overall, the entire Willow Springs Ranch neighborhoods. So this is just a zoomed in version of part that we're looking at tonight. And it does kind of show that basically the same layout, different road names, but yep. And you can see the proposed trail here. And it does go directly across Horse Lakes Drive. And I believe this section of road is called Channel Island Drive, and it goes straight across into the subdivision across the street. Okay. The review criteria used to assess the application was found in section 18.02.260 of the Monument Development Code. There are 10 criteria. I will not read them verbatim because we can't see them on the slide, and they are represented in the staff report. But staff's findings for the first criterion, staff finds that the plat is in substantial compliance with the comprehensive plan and its future land use plan, and the parks, trails, and open space plan, as well as other relevant plans that have been adopted by the town. The proposed lot design and utility service are consistent with the neighboring subdivisions, and the proposed plat also conforms to the Willow Springs Ranch PD site plan that was approved in 2020. Number 2, the plat proposes a harmonious development and lot pattern that is compatible with the neighborhood and community. The proposed access, like I mentioned on Channel Drive, will line up with the existing access of the same name into that Forest Lake subdivision. The subdivision to the south and east, and I mean, we've got a, it might be more south, south and east, which is the Willow Springs Ranch filing number 1, does include similar single-family detached housing. Number 3, staff finds that the proposed lot and development pattern does ensure adequate light, air, parks, and open space, as well as public spaces for public use. The final plat is consistent with the approved PD site plan for Willow Springs Ranch. Number 4, staff finds that the plat does provide adequate access to all lots and tracts proposed in the subdivision. It also provides direct access to Forest Lakes Drive, as well as the potential connection to the adjacent property to the north, the school district property. Staff proposes a condition of approval to address the potential future needs to convert the subdivision access to right in, right out. Number 5, the proposed plat provides adequate, safe, and efficient public improvements, utilities, and community facilities to the subdivision. Monument Water and Monument Sanitation Districts have both provided will serve letters for this plat. Improvements and utility connections are already in place to serve filing number 2. All right, number 6 is on the next page. Okay. The plat does provide for adequate protection from fire, flood, geologic hazards, significant soil constraints, and other dangers. It provides for a proper design of stormwater drainage, erosion control, and streets. These drainage improvements were constructed with the development of Willow Springs Ranch filing number 1 and were designed to accommodate filing number 2. Number 7, the application was reviewed by numerous referral agencies and staff. The final version of the plat included with this report has satisfied the referral comments as well as other applicable provisions of the Monument Municipal Code. Number 8, the proposed plat design provides for preservation and conservation of the listed natural areas and features. The plat is consistent with the preliminary/final PD site plan, which itself took into consideration the preservation and conservation of the surrounding natural areas. And number 9, the proposed final plat doesn't interfere with the preservation and conservation of vegetation or wildlife. Staff finds this proposed plat to be consistent with the preliminary/final PD site plan that was approved in 2020. And staff finds the proposed final plat adequately meets the review criteria and recommends Planning Commission recommend approval with the following condition. 1, at the time of design for the future school site for Lewis Palmer School District number 38, the Channel Island Drive access from Forest Lakes Drive shall be evaluated and may require conversion to a right-in, right-out. If such intersection or access improvements are required, then the applicant and/or Willow Springs Ranch Metropolitan District shall be responsible for the cost of design and construction. This ends staff's presentation. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. At this point, we're going to go ahead and open up public comment or open public hearing for public comment at this time. Are there any personnel in the building or room here that would like to make any comments regarding this portion that we're up on now on 3A?
Good evening. Tim McConnell with Drexel Burrell. Process here.
Yes, sir.
Lauren's done a very thorough job covering most of the points. So this is basically bringing this plat back forward again. Same lot count, same configuration. It is in compliance with the PD site plan, the overall Willow Springs development. Only a couple things happened since that prior submittal on the school district property to the west. We actually did that work as well. We vacated a piece of the Mitchell Forest Lakes Drive that would have connected to Rickenbacker at the county's direction, and also platted the additional right of way that's shown directly on the west side of this plat. I do want to note, based on the condition that's written there, that it mentions that Lewis Palmer School District develops that property and builds that driveway, that roadway. There's also part of the direction we got when we platted that right of way, partly also for the property to the north, the Ward property. So I think maybe that condition could have been in that note, because that was for access for that property in the future, if it does potentially develop as well. So if that comes online before the school district, they would be responsible for building that road and connect and change our main access to right in, right out. Other than that, I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. They're pretty much riding on the same flat that we had a couple of years ago. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Tim. Tim, correct? Yes, sir. All right, Tim, I'm going to keep it open for public comments. At this time, Ray, are there any individuals online?
I don't see anyone online that wants to speak.
All righty, we'll give them a minute there, if you would. All right, Ray, that's a quick minute. We're going to go ahead and close public hearing at this point, opening up for commissioners' questions and comments. And I refer to the right. Commissioner Green, please.
Yeah, I have a question for staff. I meant to look. I think it is my microphone. I meant to look this up before I came. What is the minimum lot size for single family development in Euclidean zoning here?
That is a great question, and I can find that out for you. You know what? I believe Ray might know off the top of his head, because he's fantastic and can probably do that. Ray, would you happen to know?
I know this is a PD, but I was wondering for straight zone.
So we have a single family detached, low density and medium density. For low density, it's 9,000 square feet, and for medium density, it is 6,500 square feet.
Okay, and since this is a PUD, and usually if you get a little bit better density, you're giving up something. Was there a trade-off to get the 5,500 foot lots?
Tim, would you happen to know the answer to that?
original PD went through. That was part of the trade-off with the overall Willow Springs site. So basically, I did the Prebles Meadow Jumping Mouse and all the other open space we wanted to preserve. About half of the site, overall 220 some acres, I think it is, was dedicated as open space at that time. I think part of the trade-off with maybe some of these lots, especially up in the northwest end of the site, which is more dense lots, with less than 5,000 square feet. I think that was, part of the trade-off to preserve.
So there was more open space dedicated than what's required in the ordinances?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
And Commissioner, I do have the final PD site plan pulled up, so I can find that specific answer for you as well.
You had it up earlier. That's, unless another commissioner wants to see it. That's fine. That answered my question.
Lauren, I had a question for you.
Yes.
Recommend with conditions. If the future school site for LP 38 is approved and is being designed, the access on Channel Island Drive may require conversion to right and right out. Who makes that decision?
Tim's got the answer.
I can chime in on that too. I believe as part of our development process for Willow Springs, the access points that come up. Forest Lakes Drive, a county access permit, and I believe that was a condition of the county access permit when we went through the process to vacate the old right of way and create the new right of way on the school district property. That was a condition in the access permit with the county when that access is ever developed on school property, that we could convert that to right in, right out, and the county so requested.
Okay, so technically, if we approve it with conditions, should we change that wording that it not may require, but will require a conversion to right in, right out?
I don't think we can know for sure without seeing the school design and knowing what kind of traffic numbers are involved, that we can make that determination that it absolutely will need to be converted. I think that's why we modified the condition from what you originally, because you did originally approve it with it will be converted. And we just thought that it was more prudent to evaluate it at that time. I think it is a little bit messy in terms of who makes that determination, because we're dealing with different jurisdictions. But we would certainly want the town public works to weigh in on that and ultimately make that determination, because the right in, right out that we're talking about is in the town. And so I think that town staff needs to be part of that evaluation.
I agree, because then we'll come back to us or the town council that be a part of that decision-making process. So I guess I'm just somewhat hesitant to leave that kind of in the middle without a good answer. Yeah,
It's also complicated because truly converting an intersection to a right in, right out is not just a question of signage. If that's all you do, you won't have compliance. People will just make so it's a fairly substantial undertaking, truly, to convert that. But it is, if the school site develops as we expect it to, that roadway that's dedicated for the school access is very close. So I think that's why there is that concern that it, if we know for sure that it's going to be a right in, right out, we should probably say that it should be built that way from the beginning and not entertain a conversion, but because otherwise that's just an investment in an intersection that ultimately you have to tear up and redo.
But if we trim that down,
Well, possibly, it just depends on what kind of relationship or contractual relationship there is between the developer and the metropolitan district. I don't know who's really responsible for the funding today of those improvements.
Thank you, sir. Please. Any? Yes, sir.
Well, on that same issue, it seems what I heard you say is that the school district builds as now planned, it's going to be required. So why isn't things such that it would convert back the other way to where the right in and right out wouldn't be required if it wasn't built that way, and it would be a settled issue before construction?
I mean, I think the answer is because we can't know the timing for the school district to build that school, or even if they are going to build that school. So I think that's why the thought is that it would be converted, is that it could be years from now. And at that time, we would want to evaluate it based on what's actually happening on the ground, take traffic counts and find out what's actually happening there, and sort of take a fresh look at it to say, does this need to be?
Okay, I just want to be clear. In other words, it's definite if they build it the way it is and they construct, that will be a part of what's approved of this process as far as the cost for doing that.
For the right in, right out?
Yes.
I mean, that's sort of up to the commission. I mean, you know, I think if you adopt the condition as we've proposed it, then I think the answer to that is yes, we will, based on that evaluation, assuming that evaluation turns out to need it, then we would enforce that.
Okay, that was my concern on that. Now, my other question is on the traffic study. Can you speak to the traffic study? Okay, I have a question for you. You used a 2020 traffic study, and it goes into the roundabout. There's all kinds of data related to that, but there's no data related to the extension of Baptist Road that goes up to the primary egress at I-25. Why is that?
That's maybe where they're gonna be constructing a roundabout at Roseville and Baptist in the near future. This summer. So we didn't analyze it out to that point, or LSD did not at that point in time, because that wasn't required. In 2020. That was for the overall development with the 399 lots, we're down to the last.
I understand that. But why, when you were submitting this time, wasn't an update done? For the
compliance with the previously approved PD plan.
Yeah, but we're a couple years later now, so. Okay.
There are other studies that have come in since then. I believe Grace probably speak to that. Falcon Point and other developments that have come in. It's continually changing with other developments that have come in.
Sure, I'm comfortable with that answer right now. So.
Commissioner Hours, nothing has changed. The original traffic report is still valid. The conclusions are still valid. All of those conclusions are based on the full build out of Willow Springs. This subdivision that gets plugged in is the exact same 27 lots that were accounted for in the original traffic study.
I understand that. Except if you read in the traffic report, it says that there's a possibility at some future date, the roundabout is going to have to be expanded. So my question is, what traffic studies should be done when these developments come in? Because there's been a lot of development since the 2020. And what's going to cause congestion going up Baptist Road to the I-25 will back up traffic, and you're merging the traffic for two routes that are evacuation routes, Old Denver Highway and Baptist Road. So it seems to me that a traffic study at this point in time, not in 2020, but at this point in time, is proper, because a lot of those things have happened subsequent to 2020.
We aren't aware of any issues at the existing roundabout for traffic, and I'm not sure city town is taking that over from the county. It's a county jurisdiction. It is in the county MTCP, the major traffic transportation corridor. Maybe look at that every couple of years as well for analysis.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that about what jurisdiction it's in.
They did design that too.
Well,
Second lane.
I'm going,
When it is needed.
yeah, when it comes time to a motion, I'm going to make a motion for a condition. If everybody buys off on it, it'll go up to the council accordingly. And the reason being, just as you said, nobody said anything about anything. Well, the way we find out about what's needed is to do traffic studies based on what has happened since 2020, and that's my concern. That's a primary evacuation route. And I understand that the amount of traffic that you're putting on it has not changed what's going on in that roundabout. But based on the amount of traffic that you're putting on, the amount of traffic that has since then come in to Baptist Road, going to I-25, is significantly greater than what it was in 2020. So we need to start looking at that roadway to be sure that we're not going to have issues, because we wait till after the fact and then we've got issues. So that's my point.
We haven't changed our plan. We're still generating the same amount of traffic. I believe there's probably other studies that have come in, maybe for Fountain Commerce Center, Connexus, that are more recent, but they have more current traffic data. The county may have more recent current traffic data based on their pull some of that. It's available.
Certainly, when I want to make my,
In regards to the evacuation routes, that's a different scenario to look at. Typically don't study those. We've gone through several projects in Colorado Springs recently. The city fire marshal will discuss that, because there's so many different scenarios that come into play with evacuation routes, depending on the incident.
and that may be the issue, and it may be somebody else's issue. But as far as I'm concerned, when I read the traffic study, it points out that the roundabout may have to be expanded. You are putting traffic in now. New traffic's coming in. So how do we determine whether that roundabout needs to be expanded? And it's going to be determined based on what's going on with the traffic going from that roundabout up and the traffic that's flowing to go to the two exits. So that's my only concern. So yeah. Yeah, and which will be another problem. I'm not faulting you for submitting what you did. I'm just begging the question why that wasn't. And I think it's something that should be done. Again, I'll make my motion. If the planning commission approves it and it goes to the council, I'm sure they'll have somebody look at it to say, yeah, we're not going to mess with it, or somebody else is responsible for it. But I think it's a concern that needs to be raised, and you happen to be the one that stands before me with the project that causes me to raise the question. You're welcome.
Go ahead, please.
Ray, can you put up the map of the roads and the lots platted out? Yeah.
Lauren, would you mind putting up the plat that you had on your presentation?
Absolutely.
Just with the roads on it, with the intersection we're talking about?
Right, are you guys seeing that? No. Sorry. Apologies. How about now?
That's not what you want.
Oh, I want the road that's not there between the school dedication and this property.
That's this one?
Right there. That's what I want
Yep.
right there, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Tim, so when you were speaking before, you indicated that if the school builds, your group would be responsible for that intersection and the road. But if someone develops north of that property, then they're gonna be responsible for the intersection and the road, and you're just gonna hook up to them? Yep. Okay, I had it wrong. Okay, but you explained my question already. I was looking along the school property line.
That road would be.
Okay, okay, and that one won't be a right in, right out.
I need full access. And then the right in, right out restriction on our drive, of course, our traffic exiting up to. The North Prairie Court.
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, thank you.
My only question for you, Commissioner Trujillo, is when we talked about this in 2020, the initial acreage available for District 38 there, was it always at 5 or was it more for the school, dedication for the school?
It's been 5 as far as. And the Willow Springs developer
Mhm.
made that 5 acres to the
Correct.
district, and that was part of the planning process that went through with the exemption plat. And that added to the other, I forget, 8 or 9 acres they had further to the west, like one larger parcel.
Okay, that's what I'm confusing with it then. Okay,
And
yeah,
part of that, that was part of what came into play and why we vacated the First Lakes Mitchell right away that bifurcated that property, so it's all one contiguous.
Perfect, yeah. Okay, no, and that's what that was where I wanted to make sure I was clear on that. So yeah, I understand now. That's all I had, just that question. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any other? All right, at this time, thank you, Tim, for coming down and getting some clarity for us there. We're going to go ahead and close commissioner questions and comments, and now a motion to vote by all the commissioners.
Commissioner Howard, before you make your motion, would you entertain adding the additional condition that are listed here with, I would like to change that and eliminate just 4 words, be evaluated and may, and just to say that it shall require conversion.
Can you pull up the motion you want me to look at and condition?
You asked for the motion, Commissioner?
Commissioner Hours, before I make the motion, I'm going to back off of putting a condition in here. Because as you pointed out, it's not going to change the traffic that's going into that circle. But I do believe that as we go forward, I'm talking to the staff now, we need to look at when a traffic study is done, when we ask for a traffic study, and we have major evacuation routes. what all needs to be evaluated in that traffic study to make a decision, especially when that traffic route is coming into a roundabout that's going to be impacted if there's an evacuation. And we don't want to wait till after we have an evacuation in process to decide we should have looked at what's going down the road. So I'm not going to put it back, a burden back on that company, because as was discussed here, nothing has changed in the number of people that you're putting in there. So having said that, would you like to make the motion?
Well, I would, but I guess I would throw it out to the other commissioners. If you have comments or thoughts on what my statement was before I proposed the motion, if you're comfortable, if I eliminate those words and make it a requirement versus they may require. So I'm willing to listen to your thoughts and ideas on that before I submit that motion.
Commissioner Hours, my position would be you can recommend it be changed. It goes forward. I'm sure appropriate comments would be made to the council as to what was there and the changes that we made, and the council would then decide which way they wanted to go. So I would support your.
Okay. This is Commissioner Egley. I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Willow Springs Ranch filing number 2 final plat, based on the finding that the proposed final plat is in conformance with the review and approval criteria as outlined in the Town of Monuments Land Development Code, section 18.02.260, with the following condition. 1, at the time of the design of the future school site for Lewis Palmer School District number 38, the Channel Island Drive access from Forest Lakes Drive shall require conversion to a right-in, right-out. If such intersection or access improvements are required, then the applicant and/or the Willow Springs Ranch Metropolitan District shall be responsible for the cost of design and construction.
Second.
All right, I will now do the vote. Chair Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours.
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Egley,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Real quick, Ray, on the agenda here, we had items, staff will now present items 3A and 3D, had no mention of 3B or 3C. I just need the direction, what direction we're going here. On your agenda, it mentions public hearing and recommendation. Staff will now present items 3A and 3D.
Yeah, there is no 3D. Sorry about that.
I'm just reading the agenda. That's
Consider it having been presented.
very well. So I'm assuming we're moving to 3B. Thank you, Ray. All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and move to item number 3B. This is a resolution for a final plat known as Connexus Lost Island 2. And I defer back to staff for presentation.
Evening Chair, members of the commission. 3B and 3C are both related to the Lost Island development. 3B is and we'll handle them separately. I'll present them separately. And obviously you'll vote on them separately. 3B is the Connexus filing number 3 final plat. My name is Ben Thurston. I'm the Baseline planning director for Baseline. Okay. The subject property in this case is lot 4 of of the Connexus Filing 2 plat, and which is outlined in red. It's situated south of 2nd Street between I-25 and Old Denver Road. And it's a little hard to see in this view, but just as a reminder, with the Connexus Filing 2 plat, as well as the development plan for it, Old Denver Road is being realigned. So it creates essentially a whole lot that sits in between this site and the adjacent residential development to the west. The applicant is John Olson with Urban Landscapes. The site acreage is 30.82 acres. That's the total of lot 4. Property owners Connexus LLC. And the applicant requests approval of filing number 3, final plat. Okay. The comprehensive plan, the future land use plan of the comprehensive plan, a snapshot of which is shown here, shows that the future land use of the subject site is business campus, which includes mixed use business uses, including office, manufacturing, and commercial. The plat and development conform to the town's comprehensive plan and other applicable plans. The development provides indoor and outdoor recreation activities that are generally not already provided in the town. Next slide. So on the left, the blue boundary is the Connexus Filing 2 boundary. And again, lot 4 is shown in red. And then a more close-up version of lot 4. Connexus Filing 2 was approved in September of 2022. Next slide. So on the left is lot 4 as it was platted with Connexus Filing 2. And then on the right is the proposed replat. So it's a pretty simple lot split, creating a lot 1 and a lot 2. And lot 1, the northern lot, the smaller one, is what's proposed for the last lot 2 development. Next slide. The review criteria for a final plat comes from Land Development Code section 18.02.260. The just running through the criteria. Number 1 is regarding the town's comprehensive plan conformance with the comprehensive plan, parks, trails, and open space plan and any other plans adopted by the town. And we find in the affirmative, the plat and development conform to the town's comprehensive plan and other applicable plans. The development provides indoor and outdoor recreation. It will provide activities that are generally not provided in the town. Number 2 addresses harmonious development and lot pattern that's compatible with the neighborhood and community. And we find that in the affirmative. This 2-lot replat provides a predictable lot pattern and is compatible with the surrounding lots included in Connexus Filing number 2. Number 3 is regarding adequate light, air, parks, open space, other places for public use. Those uses were all established by the approved PUD. As well as the subsequent platting. So that's already been addressed. There is a small amount of open space, obviously, with any development, and there is some in this development, but the actual public open space was really dedicated as part of the original PUD. Number 4, sorry, is regarding adequate access. The plat provides vehicular access from Old Denver Road, the realigned Old Denver Road, and the proposed development provides shared access points for the adjacent properties, both the north and the south. Number 5 is regarding adequate, safe, and efficient public improvements, utilities, community facilities, mentions, a supply of water, and that the owners and developers will bear the cost of improvements. The applicant participated in many conversations with TriView regarding water for both phase 1 and 2, although tonight you only hear phase 1 and phase 2 is not proposed at this time. for the proposed development, and through water conservation efforts and landscape design in phase 1, and then future plans to recycle water in phase 2, it has been determined that there is adequate water necessary for the development. And the owner and developer have acknowledged that they are aware of their responsibility for current and future improvement costs and fees. Next slide. Number 6 is regarding adequate protection from fire, flood, geologic hazards, significant soil constraints, other potential dangers. And there really aren't any substantial concerns. Certainly there's potential for natural disasters all throughout the town, but the design of the property is consistent with recommendations regarding those potentials. And then there is adequate stormwater drainage and erosion control designs that have been included with the development plans. Number 7, that the plat conforms to all applicable provisions of these regulations, meaning the code, but also county, state, and federal regulations. The plat has been reviewed by town staff and outside agencies, and those reviews have found that the plat is consistent with all applicable regulations. Number 8 is regarding the preservation and conservation of unique and distinctive natural areas, scenic areas, landscape, wildlife habitat. In this case, that staff found no unique or distinctive natural areas existing on the subject property that would be impacted by the development. Number 9, that the plat provides for the preservation and conservation of significant stands of vegetation. The proposed final plat design does not interfere with preservation and conservation of vegetation, nor is there any substantial vegetation at the site. And number 10, that the final plat is generally consistent with the preliminary plat as applicable. This is well, first of all, we do find that it's consistent with the Connexus phase 2 and 3 preliminary PUD. But this is a minor subdivision. There is no preliminary plat required. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. The applicant is here tonight, although I don't know that they have a presentation that speaks specifically to the plat. They certainly have a presentation later. About
And I recently walked on the Santa Fe Trail in that area. I was just kind of curious, I'd like to be able to see from the design what the access to this land is going to be and how much of the Santa Fe Trail is going to be disrupted by that. I know it's one of the few areas where a lot of people use that for recreation. So as we're putting recreation in, we're also maybe limiting the already natural use of recreation. I know one of the things that's brought up, I believe that in section 1 is trails and things like that. So if we're disrupting natural trails to put in false trails, are we, how are we mitigating that? And then also when you're talking about there's no substantial wildlife in the area, what about all the prairie dogs? I know that somebody owns land, it's going to be built, but is there going to be enough open space for some of the inhabitants of the area already? Those are just some concerns that I had.
Eric Jones from civil engineer on the project, primary civil engineering. So we contracted with the survey for the flag. As far as the old Santa Fe Trail, we are not in the vicinity of that with this lot that would connect the civil development. I don't recall off the top of my head whether the better answer in that one, but I know they are keeping a good portion of the old Santa Fe Trail, and then rerouting and I guess helping with these out to all Denver realignment. So that will be handled with the overall Nexus development.
So at no point the Santa Fe Trail will impede on any of this split between 2 and 3 there as we split lot 4, correct? Where is the Santa Fe Trail as it's depicted here? I just want to make sure I understand where you guys are talking about. Yep, please. Thank you. Yeah, John. Mhm. So I'm going to defer back to staff, and maybe staff can answer the question then. As I'm sorry, ma'am, your name was, as Samantha had mentioned, with that new Santa Fe or with the new Denver Road going in to adjust for that area, where is the Santa Fe Trail, and is it going to be mitigated with this plat?
Well, it's going to remain, it remains in place essentially.
Okay.
What happens with Old Denver Road, that, I wish I had a better view that could actually show you. But Old Denver Road basically gets shifted to the east. The alignment of the trail is along the current alignment of Old Denver Road, or the old alignment, which is to the west, more adjacent to the residential area.
All this come a little clearer when you get into the PUD.
Yes. Yeah.
Get,
So we'll see it on the next slide. So I just want to make sure, yeah, that'll be a lot more, that'll be better to see it there.
Just to reiterate, this development, it doesn't touch or impact in any way.
And your second question, Samantha, was the prairie dogs. So just with the state, obviously the Preble Mouse and the National Forest Service, they can preserve those lands for the Preble Mouse. Unfortunately, when it comes to the groundhogs and the gophers, that's not a case. Those are strictly farmland. Yes, ma'am. So that the property owner has the right to go ahead and take care of those problems as they see fit. Yes, ma'am. All right, moving on. We're going to go ahead and close public comment, and we're going to open it for commissioner comments at this time. Ma'am.
Just a quick question. Actually, I think it may have made more sense to do the final PUD first and the final plat second, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. You have not changed in any way the preliminary PUD by doing a minor subdivision. And did I read it correctly? It's just utilities. Is that correct? The way utilities come in, is that why the two lots? If you can still maintain the preliminary PUD, why are you subdividing into two? So it's for ownership. Okay. Right.
Will be available.
But this is not going to change the PUD. That's why these might have made more sense if we had done them the other way around. I probably wouldn't be asking this question. Thanks.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and close the commissioner comments. I just request a motion to vote from the commissioners.
Commissioner Smith, I will make a motion to recommend approval. I move that the planning commission recommend approval of a resolution for a final plat known as Connexus Lost Island 2.
Collins seconds.
I'll now do the vote. Chair Trujillo,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours.
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Egley.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Next item up on the agenda is item 3C, an ordinance for a final PUD known as Connexus Lost Island 2. And again, push or defer to staff.
So once again, if you want to go to the slide, Ray, this is the Lost Island 2 final PUD. The applicant is John Olson with Urban Landscapes. The site acreage is 14 acres. So that's lot 1 of the subdivision we talked about. Is the 14 acres. Property owners Connexus LLC, and the request is for approval of the Lost Island 2 final PUD plan. I think we're already oriented to the subject property. This does give the image on the right gives a little bit better view of the alignment of Old Denver Road. And you can see there's an entire lot, kind of a narrow, long lot that sits in between the new alignment of Old Denver and the old one. And so that lot sits between this development and the neighboring residential subdivision to the west. And as we talked about, the Santa Fe Trail aligns with the old alignment. All right, next slide. The property is zoned PUD. The land use is currently vacant, and the proposed use is an indoor outdoor recreation facility. Next slide. That PUD zoning is implemented through the Connexus phases 2 and 3 preliminary PUD that was approved in February of 2022. And that's the document that largely dictates land uses, but also largely dictates the development standards that apply to the development. Next slide. This is the site plan for the project. It includes joint access drives at each of the front corners of the site. So those are shared accesses intended to be shared with the different properties on each side. Providing access to a parking lot that is sized to serve both phase 1 and phase 2. But as I mentioned before, phase 2 is not part of what's being proposed tonight, so it's not under consideration. But they did plan for parking to address both phases. There's a drop-off lane along the front of the building. The building includes a variety of indoor recreation, playroom, inflatables, ninja gym, and party rooms. And then behind the building are 4 miniature golf courses that sit between the building and I-25. To the south of the building and the mini golf is the vacant area for what they are wanting to propose in the future as a water park. Next slide. A couple of views of the building. The top image is the front elevation, so the west side of the building. And you can see the entrance to the building on the right side of that elevation. And then the north elevation, so one of the sides of the building. The main building is finished with a combination of manufactured stone, stucco, wood grain metal, and a standing seam metal roof. And then there are 2 accessory structures that sit behind the building that are adjacent to the miniature golf. One is a golf hut, essentially where you go to register for golf, and then the other is an outdoor bar. And they're both finished with wood siding and attachment. So those are the views down at the bottom of those 2 structures. Next slide. Staff evaluated what you see here, not limited to this list, but just wanted to kind of provide a summary of the zoning again through the Connexus phases 2 and 3 preliminary PUD. Land use is permitted by the PUD. Setbacks conform with the PUD. Utilities will be served, and all comments have been addressed regarding utilities. Access and circulation complies with applicable regulations. The parking exceeds the PUD requirement. As we mentioned, It's meant to be planned for a future phase. Whether or not it meets the requirement of that future phase value comes in. Lighting conforms to the land development code. I did want to address lighting in particular, just because the treatment of lighting for the miniature golf is a little bit of a challenge. And the staff report covers this. The land development code does not specifically address lighting for outdoor recreation like miniature golf. And although section 1805.340 in the land development code provides for an exemption from outdoor or from lighting standards for outdoor sports and athletic fields, staff finds that miniature golf was not ever intended to be exempt, to fall within that exemption. So in order to provide safe and reasonable lighting levels for the miniature golf course, staff directed the applicant to conform to Illuminating Engineering Society of North America standards for specialty sports. That specifically names miniature golf as one of those specialty sports. And the proposed lighting plan meets those ISMA standards. And then landscaping conforms to the PUD. The master sign plan conforms, and sign permits will be required. Architecture and design conforms to the PUD. Open space, again, is provided that the lion's share of open space for this development is really in the Connexus phase 2 and 3 PUD. And then the preliminary PUD notes, there's a number of notes, and those are have all been addressed. Next slide. So going through the review criteria, number one is that the final PUD conforms to or is consistent with the preliminary PUD. As we've noted and is noted in the staff report, the proposed Lost Island 2 PUD is in conformance with the agreed Connexus phase 2 and 3 preliminary PUD. Number two, that circulation is designed for the type of traffic generated. Talks about access, handicap access, noise and exhaust control. Circulation has been designed for access, safety, and ADA requirements. Driveways have been designed in conformance with the police and fire department standards, and pedestrian access and circulation have also been provided. Number three speaks to functional parks, open space, and trails for recreation. Again, that's something that's provided for in the phase 2 and 3 PUD. There is open space that's provided, but that's not sort of functional open space on the site. The site is currently vacant and contains few, if any, trees. Number four speaks to a variety of development and housing types and styles and densities, and a mix of land uses. This is not a mixed use project. There's obviously not residential proposed, but it does provide a unique use that contributes to overall development variety in the town. Number five, that there's private individuals, families, and neighbors provided as appropriate. I think the biggest thing that was done that will substantially buffer to the adjacent areas to the west is the fact that they realigned Old Denver Road and got an entire lot that will be developed. Lot 2, I believe it's lot 2, but that long lot is proposed for residential. So there would be essentially a residential buffer in between this development and the existing residential to the west. There is, privacy in terms of the site itself. There's an 8-foot ornamental fence on the north, south, and east property lines. An existing fence and I-25 right-of-way will remain, and additional privacy is provided with the proposed perimeter landscaping. Number 6 speaks to building design, orientation, spacing, materials, exterior color and texture. The staff finds that the architectural and lighting design have been reviewed and determined to be in compliance with the land development code and the PUD. Notes on the cover sheet of the PUD plan set outline architectural standards and the compliance with the town's lighting rules. Number 7, landscaping. It speaks to landscaping being quality design, and we find in the affirmative
Landscape plan and an irrigation plan designed by professionals has been included with the final PUD. Proposed plant materials are species commonly found in central Colorado and have been selected in accordance with the town's landscape regulations. It is a water-wise landscaping. Artificial trees and plants are provided in a miniature golf area to create a tropical appearance. Number 8 is about adequate on-street parking. And staff finds in the affirmative that provided parking exceeds the parking requirements established on the Nexus phases 2 and 3 preliminary PUD. And then finally, number 9, that the final PUD has been shown to fit within the context of the planned use pattern, land use pattern and roadway and utility system of the larger surrounding area. Staff finds that the final PUD is consistent with the preliminary PUD, which outlines proposed lot divisions, permitted uses, and provides a master facility plan, including roads, trail connections, and utilities. And that concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions, but again, the applicant does have a recommendation that they would like to get.
Yeah, if we could go ahead and have the applicant go ahead and give their presentation prior to public comment, that way possibly can answer some of their questions.
Okay, so on here you see kind of the full rendering of what's being proposed, and we're referring to this as phase 1. Phase 2 was referenced earlier about the water park. That would need to come back as a PUD plan to the city. For this time, though, this is we do have the building. You can see the big logo gorilla on the building image, and then to the right of it or to the west. East, I'm sorry, is the mini golf course. So we actually have 4 18-hole golf courses on here. How many of you are familiar with existing Lost Island today in Colorado Springs? Okay. So Lost Island, I can speak from my own experience because I've been a patron of Lost Island before I met Pete and before this project came to the thing. It's a fun place for the family. It's great to go and take other family that's coming into town to visit. He's had essentially purchased or inherited one of the existing golf courses, right? So he owns a couple of them in town. This one is particularly exciting because he gets to build it from scratch, right? And so he'll get up and speak a little bit to in some of that passion a little bit. But we're pretty excited to see this. Go to the next slide. Not here today while that's going. We have 308 LLC. They're in Colorado Springs. Christy Riggs is the architect for this, and Rawl Studios up in Bentonville, landscape architect. This project also had an additional landscape architect for the streetscape that worked for Nexus at NES. And then to add even further complication, our office is also landscape architecture. So you actually have 3 landscape architects working on this project for different companies, collaborating, which is pretty exciting. The image that you're seeing on here, north is to the left. That's the overall Connexus. So the gorilla lot, the 14-acre lot that we're talking about, lot 2 to the west or down on this is the lot that separates new Old Denver Road and old Denver Road. So that's the confusing piece of it. I don't know what the name. I think it's a TBD of what the Old Denver Road will be called. It'll be named something else. Even Eric knows that. I think it's just TBD on the platform. Next slide, please. Similar image to before. We have, as was mentioned earlier, we have overparked the site for our use of what we have today. And that was intentional because of the water park. We want to go and size it. We do believe that the water park and the mini golf and the interior will kind of be the same users, but come once they'll go back and forth. But we wanted to make sure that we had adequate parking. We are certainly excited about the trail and the prospects of that and the connections. We want this to be business that is accessible not only to be driven and dropped off, as you can see there's a drop off, but also that you could walk to, because there are neighborhoods nearby, of course, to future development. Yes.
We can address her question right now. Sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? Sorry, please. This might be the easiest one to see. So this is where the Santa Fe Trail is, right here, and same with the southern half of it. So I believe, based on Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's going to be a crosswalk as this intersection goes into the old Denver Road from new. There's going to be a crosswalk here and a crosswalk there. So Santa Fe Trail will continue to remain. It'll just have crosswalks. So I'm assuming that these are going to be stop signs and stop signs for these intersections. So just the same as the Santa Fe Trail across the Old Denver Road up here by the school. Just the crosswalk where everybody has to stop. So Santa Fe Trail will continue to be exactly where it is. There's just going to be crosswalks at the intersection points.
I appreciate that, because originally we were told, oh, there might be so many, and then across the road on the Santa Fe Trail, so being how you're rerouting a whole access road to that, makes sure that I'm ready to find it.
Is it similar to when they just built that church? Could we know the stuff that we get about?
That's
They put, an entrance there and you just have to, yeah, so that's what we're talking about. Yeah, and so pedestrians will have the right way to throw access.
Like, you'll just have two areas where you're.
Yeah. And that access road becomes service the whole development, 170 acres.
Correct. Well, if they're a chuckle with Chuck County, I'm sorry.
Up here, sir. Yeah.
That's correct. So that lot 2, which is the orange one, that separates existing Old Denver Road, a new Old Denver Road. This shows new Old Denver Road. Existing Old Denver Road becomes Crossfield. That's the name the city gave us to call that road. So at the north and south ends, existing Old Denver Road will tee into new Old Denver Road, creates those crosswalks, so it's a safe situation, and there's stop signs in all these spots.
Thank you.
And while we're on this slide here, I also didn't mention this earlier, but I found the date earlier while I was sitting back here. April 6th, we actually met in this room with the Save Monument Group regarding this plan as well. So I don't know if anybody, thank you. Thank you. So we met with Save Monument, and I believe I said met with Save Monument quite a bit before Lost Island had come. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's perfect. Skip, right? So this is a artist's rendering of what the mini golf course will be. And I don't know exactly how many hundreds or even maybe over 1,000 different species and things that Keith has ordered for the site, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be something really fun and engaging. Each of the 4 different courses referenced before will have different themes that go along with those. So while one is a tropical, one is also a tundra, right? So frozen tundra. So there's, I think, penguins, right? So am I making this up? Yeah. So penguins and dinosaurs, right? So it's going to be really cool, and I'm excited about it. I know kind of during this journey, I've taken a trip to Florida to see my parents. And while I was there, I actually visited Tiger Woods course, played there. And, Keith had told me to go and check it out while I was there. So I think there's going to be a lot of kind of cool ideas and thoughts that go into this, based on kind of new mini golf courses. What's happening? Go to the next slide. Indoor Ninja Gym. So this is really cool too. So it's a big building. Existing Lost Island has an outdoor ninja gym today, this currently. And I can tell you my kids love it, and it's always packed in the summers, but this allows for more recreation throughout the year. I'm here in Monument, so. I really think this is gonna be a cool regional draw. We've got a lot of projects, our company. This is the one that, I think I told you this is the one that my kids keep asking me. When is Lost Island gonna be built? They think it's gonna be built immediately, right? That's how things work. Snap your fingers and it's here. But we're really excited about it. Next slide, they're even more excited about this. This is the future water park kind of rendering. What that would be. And again, artist rendering, this would need fully developed a little bit more and would come back to you all with a few. I think I'm running out of slides, if I remember right. You can read that, right? You've all seen this.
Yep.
This is part of the application. So I think I just put these on here for reference. Next slide, please. Again, reference table. We can refer to this if you have questions. Next slide. Parking or over park, and we added parking there. And we're at the point that, you know, if you all have questions regarding this, you know, I don't know the order of how things.
Yeah, once you're finished, then we'll open it for the public comment. Public comment will have the opportunity, then we'll address several issues. What is the max height that's on there? We'll come back to that question. Yep.
Okay, that's just showing kind of something. That's showing Lost Island with Old Denver being kind of aligned, so we should try to show the building.
Mhm.
That's it.
Great, thank you, sir.
So happy to answer any questions when you're ready.
Certainly. We're going to go ahead and open it up to public comments at this point. So is there anyone in the office or in the room here that would like to make a comment? Ma'am, come on down, please. I would ask that you give me your name and your address there on the podium as always and make your comment, please. Ray, if you could queue up those that are online, thank you.
My name is Brandy Turner, and we actually did meet with this group just over a year ago and talked about the plan. We talked about our concerns with water usage that they've addressed, which will come in more, I guess, heavily with the phase 2 with the water park addition. But they were really concerned about what the community thought, what the community wanted, and what the community might see as detractors of this project. So they've talked about some of those things over the past year, and it looks like they've addressed most of those things. I have to say, I'm honestly a little disappointed that phase 2 is existing. But I understand from a financial standpoint that that's probably the best decision. And I appreciate that from a community member, that this business is not coming in saying, we're going to go big and we're going to go bold and we're going to go out of business, because we did. I appreciate the fact that they said, listen, we've got to make some financial decisions if we have to do this in phases to be a successful long-term business in this community, then that's how we're going to have to do it. So I do appreciate, although disappointed, I appreciate the reason that that had to be done. I also believe, just for reference for anybody that needs a visual like me, I believe the church is 60 feet tall at their highest point, and this building, I believe it is 30 or 36. So if you've got the visual brain like I do to understand what the size of the building is, then that's a good comparison to see. We've got the church, it's built, it's out there to then be able to look and see what the reference is. So I'm excited for our community that we have something that I like to mini golf, and I'm not a kid, but I like to take the kids, like I said, from out of town visitors So it's gonna give a little bit of opportunity for not only us, but people driving by, they're gonna see it right from the interstate, and I think that's exciting for our downtown businesses, because they're gonna be so close to this. I think opportunities for, we talked last year about employment, and how at their current locations, they strive to re-employ college students as they go away and come back for the summers. So that's one of the things that they like to do and strive to do is to think, hey, when you come back to us. Because we want you to be a part of our community and we want you to continue as part of our community. So that was one of the things that I really liked, that they're looking at not just today, but long-term building relationships, not only with our young people, but with the community as a whole. So I'm really excited that this project has finally come. I know once it gets started, it'll be quick. And there's a lot of people excited to see not only phase one, but phase two. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, and you are actually a product community. And I think, Keith, if I remember, you live off the Higby. So from his standpoint, he'll be coming down Higby Road, and that is what he will see every day. And for him to build a product that he long-term and his family long-term can live with and can see and look at every day, I think that really brings a lot to the project.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other comments, public comments inside the room here? Ray, anybody online?
I've given everyone a couple minutes to decide, but I haven't seen anyone respond in chat.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we are going to go ahead and close public comments and questions and open it up to commissioners. Commissioner
Yeah.
Green.
In the checklist of things you have to submit for PUD, one is design guidelines that include intent statement, general design concept, authority and objectives, architectural design guidelines, exterior finishes and materials, landscape guidelines, and signage criteria. What I'm seeing is a description on the plan of the building of what it is. I am not seeing overall design guidelines. Were those submitted for all of Connexus to tie it together?
Yes. That becomes the reference document for the entire development beyond even this site to reference back to conformity.
So the description that I saw on the plan with the building elevations, are those the design guidelines, or did we get them in our packet?
You have. That's the document. There wouldn't be a reason for them to propose new guidelines with their final PUD, because the preliminary establishes those guidelines, and then it's up to them to follow those guidelines.
So they were something other than a page, correct? You know, like guidelines for everything, not just one building. It's a sheet in the plans. And then were these discussed with staff? Were they turned in and we go, oh, that's what they're going to build? Or are these reviewed as you would review design guidelines if you were writing them for the town? That I'm kind of going at staff now.
They were reviewed this phase 2 and 3 preliminary PUDs. It would have been reviewed by staff.
I don't know that if I was here then, I might have been, and if so, I do not remember design guidelines for the entire thing. And this may have been one of those things I complain about where I say, where are the design guidelines? And they say that's in the next step.
No, in this case, the previous step.
In this case, the previous state. So I'm just trying to understand, when you turn in these design guidelines, they are reviewed by staff. And is there some exchange and maybe recommendations? Or did the town just, I mean, I'm looking at this and it's kind of a big metal building with a little bit of decoration on it. And I'm thinking, is this the design guidelines that everybody's using? Okay. Therefore, my next question, when you do a PUD, should you not have design guidelines for the entire PUD, not one set for each phase? Because you're looking for some kind of continuity in design. And again, I'm asking staff or somebody. Yeah.
For Connexus, included a sheet of PUD standards, right? On here, we put those architectural ones that apply on here, and there was one piece of it that needed amended, which is on this, which was to allow for, let me see if I can read this, how good my eyes are. Oh, yeah. Not quite a resolution, though. It's A, so it says architect, so 10 says architectural and design. The architecture and design of all buildings will require exterior treatment of the buildings as follows. A is the one piece that we have amended with this PUD, which says no principal structures shall have the appearance of a metal building and must include CMU block, concrete, brick, stone, stucco, wood, or cement siding, feeling on all four sides. Accessory structures and accent materials on the principal structure may be metal. So that's the piece of it that was. So what we have is it's not a metal building per se. From the street, it looks like siding, but it's these 4-inch wide siding pieces that happen to be metal. You wouldn't know they're metal unless you touch them. They actually have a wood grain here. So. And that's just for longevity and aesthetics.
Ma'am, there, buddy. Sorry. We went through, so yeah, Connexus, based on their preliminary PUD requires, no metal looking building. So, and obviously we care about the aesthetics as well. The majority of the building is stucco and veneer stone, and then just small columns are actually the wood grain metal accents. So, it'd be nice to actually do the whole building out of the metal wood grain. But even though that appears to be wood, Connexus, that didn't fit the preliminary PUD. So we changed that whole exterior elevation to stucco, which is substantially more expensive, but aesthetically it still looks, fits all the guidelines. So yeah, the only thing that's actually wood grain metal is the brown columns going vertical. So all the dark gray is all stucco and the veneer stone. So, and then those are just, those are actually metal poles that have the appearance of actual timber work. Now, the reason why I'm not doing wood siding for the exterior is because of the, the maintenance and longevity of it. So if it appears to look like wood, it's still got the nice aesthetics of wood and stucco and stone. The metal will help, preserve it from the sun and, having to refinish and repolyurethane all the wood in the future. So longevity wise, this should, require almost no maintenance moving forward. So.
And the other phases, the other parts of the larger Connexus PUD, are they going to have a similar? Are they going to use the same materials or? Okay. Okay. Just one last question. How do you have a freestanding sign, and if so, how tall will it be?
What did we? I think we opted against having a freestanding.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
We had discussed it, but honestly, the place is gonna be assigned.
It's a sign and yeah, that's true. Okay. Thank you.
Did I answer?
Yes.
Keith, I didn't get questions related. Randy brought the stuff, these and hours of operation. Can you give us some idea of the number of employees that we plan for this location and the hours of operation?
So generally, we generally our meetings technically is the indoor, this indoor is the office. So we're gonna have one around. It's got seasonal, usually Memorial Day, close the day. Having that, we're going to call it season for the so generally it's a phase one, where that's 57 is where that's obviously whether it's
And then do you see a differentiation in hours of operation from in season to off season?
So generally, in season Memorial Day, Labor Day, we're at the time. So last week, golf is going to start for the general the tourist guidance and indoor. That was fine. Visual. Now, in general, have station guides. Nice one, you know, the folks, the guy that make it, doesn't take that decision, never starts over that way. We can be those, but I feel like just to do the first place, mainly first. All night, but it's not something.
And then have you done any type of studies or your group on economic impact for the Tri-Lakes area, combining specifically? Positives.
You know, obviously not, but I was born and raised in Colorado. I understand the demographics on the complexes I create. I understand anything with that, with the fact that it's in the Southwest, economics, really you think a lot of people from South Canada and Castle Rock. And the reason they took the South Rock is that it's high, so that's why we felt that it's that we're hoping to that we have the help out. Where, you know, what I'm really hoping for is actually for a restaurant. You know, I like more sit down, little restaurant. I like the simplicity of but actually all of this. So generally, it's still there's a point, either top off, all that, and that's all that. Family revenue is going to be, you know, hoping to store with it, you know, how do you discuss a lot of them being forward them.
Thanks.
I have a couple. Just for clarification, so where the new Old Denver and the old Denver meet, all traffic is gonna have a traffic sign, it's all gonna be controlled? Or just the old Denver? Okay,
Number T, then
yeah. Okay, all directions. All right. Second question. Obviously, you're not going to open up anytime soon. So are you going to try to build before the road is relocated, after the road is relocated, or during? And who's paying for all that?
Start the road. Should be the same time. So,
Okay. Okay. And when is that about?
Sure yet, when we're gonna start construction.
Okay.
Size of the lot that we're developing doesn't warrant building all that road and all that infrastructure. So there's other lots that we're working on selling.
Okay.
Once those lots are able to start, then we would be that little more critical needs. The just development infrastructure.
Thank you.
I didn't really have a question, more of a comment, because just wanted to point out, Samantha, you brought up about the trail crossings. So Connexus actually, I believe, had permission from the county to put up to 3 crossings, right, across the Santa Fe Trail, and you guys opted for 2. Yeah, so that's they've actually done good there. Also wanted to point out in the packet how I thought the packet was put together really, really well, and I appreciated the applicant, the notes that were in there in blue, just the transparency and all the explanation to each of the questions I thought was super helpful, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner, first, before I ask my questions, I want to compliment you on the presentation. I want to compliment you on working with our community to see that we get something in the community that the community wants. We get projects up here oftentimes that there's been no communications with our community, and we have a lot of issues with that. So I want to compliment you for all of that. And I don't think my questions are going to be too tough. With regard, I'm going to jump on the question that Commissioner Green was asked with regard to landscaping and the criteria. I saw the building, but what's the landscaping look like? I did I miss that in this presentation? Okay,
All water use, their trees obviously would require, a certain amount of irrigation, but, we don't have, mowed turf grass for the plot here. So we've got some seed.
That's my question. I saw all the dots, but I didn't know what all the dots were. Okay, so.
That nature, everything is on a drip irrigation throughout there. The water features are all recycled. So generally, when we met with the Safe Monument Group, there was a lady that was concerned about, having essentially Florida trees here in Colorado. And how's that going to look? Well, and that's, so we can kind of keep that inside the property boundaries. Most of it, from the residents is protected by the view of the building. And then from I-25 corridor, like you're still going to see things, but even the volcano and the mountains and stuff, it's all at a level playing field. So it's not one thing is going to substantially stick out. It's all, aesthetically on the same eye lines.
Please, but the answer, I missed the dot, what the dots were. Now I'm going to hitchhike on something else. And that's the construction, and I guess this may be for staff as much as anything. This is a major project, and so far everything that's been presented to us is great. But now we've got this that's going to be built. We've got a highway that's got to be built, and there are other facilities that are going to be built. What I'm concerned about is who sees and is who's responsible to see that that highway is completed 100% before any of these businesses are open. Talking about the realignment. Yes, sir. The road. Yeah. Yeah. To Danny, roads and highways are all the same, but.
So there's a development agreement that accompanies the phase 2 and 3 PUD that lays out the obligations of Connexus in the metro district and the timing of improvements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's the enforcement of that agreement essentially that dictates them.
Okay. And the reason I asked that question, and again, I'm not questioning the owner, I'm not questioning anybody, but the reason I asked the question, we had another big development that's still in the process that had a highway connecting two properties. And that highway was to be put in, roadway, I'm sorry, was to be put in. Okay. Today, 5 years later, there's a lot of development up, but that roadway is still not completed. The sidewalks aren't all totally in. We've been up there. So I'm wanting to know in this project, before we get into a situation like that, who is responsible? Who will see that the roadway is completed before any of these businesses open? Because I assure you, when this gentleman opens up that business, there's going to be a lot of activity. There's going to be a lot of foot traffic. And if that highway is not proper, we're going to have a problem. So my concern, I hope you understand my concern. It's a matter of coordination of development when you have a development this massive, because I've seen it not work in others. And so if I ask the question now, I don't get into what I've got into before in others. Yeah, well,
Wait for this road to be completed in order to get our certificate of occupancy for regional. So, you know, just speaking about this development in general, because this is a new access point, even the lot 2 here, like that access is still going to be from the new bike chain. So you can't get a certificate of occupancy without.
yeah, I understand that. I think you understand my question. There's and I'm not questioning you, okay? And I'm not questioning your integrity or anything, okay? Please understand that. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, on Dan, how quickly did you get it? It's on his desk. And it does identify the main focus of it is Old Denver, new Old Denver Road. And if that road needs to be built, the business needs to be.
Now, the only other question I would ask is related to this. And I was here when you presented the road, so we discussed at that time the access and for people that will be coming over the highway. And before we had that discussion, we didn't have this wonderful project that's coming in that's going to attract people in the existing community and in the new community. So my concern is, I don't recall what kind of crosswalks you had going over the new aligned highway to ensure that when you ultimately end up building the property you have and for the housing, and when you build that, the access that the people existing are going to be able to get to this, because they're going to want to get there and you're going to want them to get there, but I want them to get there safely. So I don't recall that.
We have that, we have a pre-construction doc. Old Denver Road and all these things.
Okay.
And your staff is really wonderful.
Yeah, I know they are. They're good.
Planning staff. Looking forward to working with the new planning staff. They've done very, very thorough reviews of our traffic studies, of our road pedestrian crossing plans, how the trail integrates with existing Old Denver and new Old Denver. And we've added all those stop signs at those freeway intersections to make sure it is a very safe roadway. The new roadway is 25 miles per hour. So it is a very, we expect it to be a very, very safe.
Okay, I just,
And staff is doing a great job, holding our people apart and make sure that we're doing what we need to do for that purpose.
and I would only make one other comment. And since you brought up traffic study, and I was going to bring it up. No, I was going to bring it up. I had it written down. And I don't know whose responsibility, and I know you've done traffic studies, but we're talking about more and more generation of traffic. So again, I would ask the staff to look at who's responsible. How do we determine in a timely manner whether that roundabout is going to need to be expanded based on all the traffic that we have from the roundabout to Baptist Road, to I-25. I know that there's an access that way, but I'm going to guarantee you, you can't count on people that are coming out, whether they're going to turn right or whether they're going to turn left in an evacuation or any other thing. So I'm just concerned that traffic be looked at very strongly before we have the problem rather than when we have the problem.
All right, Dan, got a question for you. We're talking about roadways. Main thing is in and out access associated with the new Old Denver Highway Road. During the season from 2000 all the way to 2004, I-25 gets bogged down during snow. The chaining law is located to the south, just north of Baptist, as you go up I-25, for trucks to chain their trucks as they go through the pass. The main thoroughfare for those truckers is Old Denver Highway and 83 as they go up to 105 and take off to Salida. I just want to make sure that somewhere in there it's addressed in relation to that truck stop as those trucks start funneling north on Old Denver Highway, that is somehow identified, because that's going to be a main thoroughfare for those truckers as they go north during those winter storms. It always has been, but I think we're negating that responsibility, especially for those occupants in those housings, that housing area that's to the west of that Old Denver Highway. So that's number one. Second question for the occupant, is alcohol going to be served here? What hours? So 9 p.m. would be the closing hours of that individual thoroughfare. And you made the comment earlier, obviously, to bring the structure here in Colorado for our tax dollars, things along that lines. This one might sting, and I say this reservedly, but Dave and Buster's is 12 miles away. Air City 360 is 6.9 miles away. Glow Golf, another 12 miles. Briargate Adventure Mini Golf is 13 miles away. What makes you different? Because here is where I lie with this question, and I'll give you a minute to think about it. 18.02.260 says that it needs to be harmonious and compatible with Monument. Now, Monument is a small town, it's a small town feel. My concern in my gut is that we do need the recreation. There's no question. We do need the restaurants. I completely agree. But where do we bend? And that's the hard part, because realistically, I don't want the warehouses. I get it. But again, I realize also that there has to be an even ground. And how do we get there? I don't know that answer. But that really is the hard part to swallow, to say to the citizens of Monument, hey, it has to be harmonious. What is harmonious about a volcano on the natural surroundings that we have in this environment? I can't answer that question. And I told you it was sting a little, but I want to make sure that you see it from the aspect of what does this bring that 12 miles away and 6.9 miles away, other than that tax revenue? How is it going to benefit? What makes it different? Mm-hmm.
So I understand the business of making first and foremost. Everything else is just kind of extra or things that or nice accents with it. So when it comes to why is this different? It's because we can get affordable. So because we're not a big corporation, where all the other places are charging $20
Into the microphone, there are people trying to listen offline. Thanks.
Go back to what makes you different. That's what they want to hear. They want to hear why. What makes you different?
Yes. As I have very aware of $20 a person, and reason why my motto is pay our employees very well and keep everything affordable and just keep people coming. And the nice thing about this business model is people come at random hours throughout the day. What I generally say is we want to be the Chick-fil-A effect. Everybody shows up at 12 noon for a chicken sandwich, and so now the Chick-fil-A effect is essentially people are eating chicken sandwiches at 10 a.m. It doesn't matter, it could be 10 p.m. So instead of everything bogging down on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, people generally now start, even our location in Colorado Springs, they come throughout the weekday. So it's been nice to bring that feel of community to where it's not just on the weekends and it's not just Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's kind of consistently even keel traffic. It doesn't seem like we're busy, but generally throughout the day, we just keep people circulating through there. But what sets us different the most is the fact that we're not using corporate money and we don't have to charge corporate prices. So I feel like that's the difference at Lost Island.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I needed. One more question, Commissioner Green. Please.
Thank you. The four-way stop at Old Denver Highway and 2nd Street has basically failed during working hours. Are there any plans to deal with that? Because this is really going to impact an already critical situation.
Spoke about that public improvement agreement, and that public improvement agreement identifies temporary and permanent improvement, temporary and long-term improvements to that intersection. Temporarily.
Like a light or a roundabout? Or is it a secret? Yeah.
That's where we get stacked up there is the left turn onto Old Denver.
Yeah, it will be. There are often 15 cars stacked at that four-way stop.
Yeah, so there is.
Why would that be a right turn? I would think it would be, if you're going west, it would be a left turn. Okay. Yeah. What I see is going west and going straight or left or right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, a little.
Commissioner Hours, I'd like to make a comment.
Sir.
I want to make a comment about your comment. Talking about harmonious, my gut says that this owner, when he's trying to sell the other property, is going to work real hard to make harmonious, okay? But I understand that getting people to buy property, but I think it's just outstanding for the community, and I do care what Colorado Springs is doing, but I care a lot more about what Monument's doing, and I think what you're doing is adding significantly to Monument. I know I have 4 adopted granddaughters that are much older. They come in and visit my wife and I every year. They're coming in July this year. Every year they come in, Danny and Loretta, we want to go play miniature golf. Now, I don't have to run all over Colorado Springs to play miniature golf, okay? And I'm sure that there are a lot of other people in this community that's going to be there. So I think yes. So I understand you're harmonious, sure, but I think you're going to help make our community more harmonious for entertainment. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just a side note, you know, I've been looking for land, and that's my biggest thing for me is finding, you know, somewhat affordable land and also, you know, visibility, location. But, you know, as I've looked for the last 5 years, I mean, I've been actively trying to seek building my own since I was young. When I stopped working for my dad and went out and started general contracting when the Mountain Shadows fires happened, I went full circle and never wanted to be off Academy Boulevard, and that old Mountasia, you know, that was built back in 91, came for sale, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna be on Academy. And, you know, Powers is the more ideal location because there's just much more, the annual revenue over there, but just the traffic flows are greater. But, you know, for some reason, you know, that was the, you know, part of the grand design was to be on Academy. And it's kind of interesting when you 30 years old, you say you're going to bring some dinosaurs. My investor, no banks would shake a stick at it. And I did work in outdoor custom landscape concrete and all that. I did work for this guy up in High Forest, and I walked that course after it had been dilapidated, you know, for 12 years. You know, it looked like a juniper bush, and he believed enough in me to say, you know, I believe in your crazy vision. I'll invest $2 million in you. So it's been actually harder to do Lost Island 2 than it was to not even have some kind of a prototype. So I feel like timing and, you know, divine intervention with this project is, you know, I feel like we can be harmonious for the fact of, you know, I guarantee I'll build the best miniature golf course in North America. That's what I promise. Because I end the Florida, you know, that's my work. You know, when I travel, I'm business minded to design and create things. So how can we be the best and the most affordable? So I feel like harmoniously, we'll put Monument on the map and it'll stay. So.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, we close comments for the commissioners, and I would ask for a motion to vote, please.
I move that the planning commission recommend approval of an ordinance for a final PUD known as Connexus / Lost Island 2.
Green, I second.
I will now continue the vote. Chair Trujillo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hours.
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Egley.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
100% yes.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Perfect. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move on to non-agenda public items. Staff, do we have any of those items? Land development only? None
No, sir.
over there. All right. Reports, communications, and announcements. Commissioners, any reports, announcements, or communications? And on this side, we got one. Commissioner Egley.
Yeah.
Nope, sorry. Mr. Hours.
Go ahead.
No, he didn't have one.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna ask staff. We have the Colorado Municipal League District meeting on May the 30th. And a $30 check is supposed to be written to the town of Monument. Who do we give that to particularly?
Commissioner Gowers, you just provide it to me and I'll take care of it.
Okay. I'm gonna put this on the table again. Put it on the table in January to you. And then I actually approached the town manager if he had any questions. And then you've put a similar item on the table in February. And the response that we got from the town manager was, and this is concerning the planning commission being able to meet. We would really, my recommendation was that planning commission be given an opportunity to meet with the director of planning and I mean, the town manager in his response said he was waiting for your arrival. And that's why I'm putting this on the table now. He didn't know it was you at that time, but anyway. We've been on this commission for quite a while. And we see a lot of projects come in. And we see issues that are problems with the ordinances that need to be looked at and/or we have recommendations for how those should be modified. And based on my experience with meeting with the town, and we have in the past met with the council to talk about ordinances and back time. But when you meet with the council, you have a different conversation than you have when you, I, the rest of the commissioners, but I think the town manager ought to be here also for a lot of reasons. But I think it would be a very productive conversation for the town manager's efforts that he's making to rework some of the planning issues that have caused problems over the years, both for the town and for the developers. And it would certainly be highlightful for you in some ways and protective for you, because if we get in a commission meeting and we start making recommendations that this needs to be changed and that needs to be changed, and you have no idea it's going to come up, and you as a new director, you do not have the opportunity to give the kind of response that you might want to give. And so I think it would be a very productive meeting if that meeting could be arranged in the near future as a work session or however we do that. That's just my recommendation.
Please.
Just quickly, and Commissioner Hours touched on it earlier, was traffic studies. I didn't really get into it because we're dealing with a project that had already been approved and expired, so I didn't feel, didn't want to beat them up on it.
After my conversation, I decided to.
No, but you were correct. So since that traffic study was done for that, and I'm just using them as an example, so I'm mentioning it now. The traffic study that was used with this particular project was done in 2020. Since then, there's been an enormous amount of development. We have a new QT gas station. We have a UPS distribution center. There's a ton more traffic hitting that traffic circle down there now. So just something I just kind of wanted everyone to kind of zero in on that moving forward, because it is quickly becoming a very big deal on the west side of Monument, especially when we're talking about Baptist Road and potential for evacuation. So just wanted to touch on that. Otherwise, great job on the packets. I thought everything looked fantastic.
Last one, on Friday, the 19th of July, uh, for the staff, for the commissioners, sent out an email identifying that a water conservation tour will be going on at the Air Force Academy. Just need to know if you all are interested in attending. The Air Force Academy's water distribution and how that plays out to the south. They have some interesting views that I'm sure that it would behoove us to understand their what goes on their side as the water rolls through the town of Monument down to their side to prevent those things from happening in the future. Other than that, the packets that's who's the gentleman that was here before? Jeff. The package that Jeff made, Ray knows. The packets, if we can go back to those as we identified, possibly showing Dan what those look like to, get us rolling. Those things were phenomenal. These were good, but those were better. So my personal opinion only. Other than that, we defer to staff for comments.
Worried the microphone wasn't going to let me talk. So, hi, my name is Dan Ungerleider. I'm the new director. I'm pleased to be before you tonight. I was listening to a lot of the comments that you were making throughout the evening, and there are actually some very common themes. And I think and I know that there are some processes that are on their way that are going to help us talk about that. And one of those is our comprehensive plan update. We do have it's time for us to do a complete overhaul. We have the funding for it in our budget as well as through a grant. So we'll be able to talk about traffic, downtown, environmental issues such as landscaping and drainage. We could talk about parks and recreation. There's all sorts of things we're going to be able to go through. And I think those are going to be that'll be the right time for us to consider what we've approved and what's being built now and where we're going in the future. So we're going to have that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to be coming back to you and council shortly with a proposed scope and hoping that you'll provide input on what we want to include in that document or in that conversation to create that document. We're also going to have some workshops. I think it's really important that we come together. I come together with you and have some really down and dirty conversations. You've gone through a lot just in staff turnover. And while I say staff, I want to just say congratulations to and pat Ray on the back here for serving you as he did over this time. And then also Ben's team for stepping in and helping us prepare reports during some extreme staff turnover in the planning department. I'm hoping that we can together come in and try to regulate and make a more understandable and just set some better expectations from the planning department. There's quite a few things that you asked for tonight that would have been second nature for me to think about during the process, but we just haven't had the time in the department to do that and to really take a closer look at things. So hopefully we'll help with you. We'll help improve those. I'm not sure they're going to be as great as Jeff's reports. I keep hearing about Jeff's reports, but we will have something that I want it to be useful for you because I want you to get home to your families. I don't want the whole evening to be a discussion about what you don't have. So we're going to do our best to provide that information to you. The other thing might be helpful, and I have to kind of think this through, but we have quite a few PUDs and ongoing developments right now, and developers who want to move forward with their projects. They already have entitlements for them. They have a vested right to build what they've got approved. But it's been some time since you've seen that. So it might be helpful either during one of our workshops or maybe something special to have kind of a review of those projects. It'll be really important that we don't invite them in for a review of what they got and then start throwing questions at them and like we're reevaluating them, because we're not. But I think it's important that we all understand what's on the books already and what's coming as we're heading into the comprehensive planning stages. So I'm looking forward to working with you. I hope you have patience. There's a lot to reorganize and clean up. It's been 3 weeks now. Everyone keeps asking if I'm drinking from a fire hose. I don't understand that. But I'm actually very fortunate to be working with a very professional staff, both on this floor and upstairs. And I think that working with you as the planning commission and with council, we'll be able to move forward and do well on the next stages. Thank you.
Any other reports, communications, or announcements? No more. Thank you, sir. At this time, we adjourn. It is now 2016. Next meeting will be June 12th at 6 p.m. located here. Thank you very much for coming.